what your own particular burnout looks like. That's the important thing, is to spot when you're burning out. Then we're going to talk about boundaries and why boundaries are important when it comes to preventing, managing, or recovering from burnout. And you'll see how they link. Then we're going to talk about why must I fill up my cup first, okay? And how do I put up effective boundaries? So the last 2 points are really going to cover the how-tos, some practical tools you can take away from the talk today. So essentially burnout, it's kind of quite a popular word at the moment. It's still not a diagnosis that we have in the DSM or the ICD-10, but it is recognized by the World Health Organization as something that can happen in the occupational space. So you can have occupational burnout, but I think we've all experienced sort of academic burnout. New parents have a particular kind of burnout. So I'm hoping that it will start to exist in other spaces soon. But essentially, it's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. Okay. Which is why this year in particular, I think, is going to result in some burning out of people. And like the picture of our businessman here, it's sort of like you start off, you have all of this energy, and then this excessive stress, this unrelenting burn happens. You're required to keep on doing things, and eventually the exhaustion takes over. Okay, but I like to think about it a little bit differently, in that dealing with our stress and being a human on this planet is about having the things that deplete you and then having the things that fill you up. Okay. My children tell me that, my cell phone, I must let it go flat and then recharge it, and then let it go flat and then recharge it. Apparently that's better for it. And I think we're the same sort of creatures, in that we get exhausted and then we need to replenish. And as long as we have that cycle going in a state where we have enough in the tank, then we don't burn out. Okay, so it's a balance of what's going out and what's coming in. Was that a question? Interrupt me if there's a question.
It was just somebody being admitted.
Okay, all right. Cool. Thank you. So when we think about that balance of what's coming in and what's going out, so if there's a lot going out, but it's in a short burst, so you look at the matrics, they've got exams coming up, so lots of studying, lots of stress, trying to get through this, not seeing their friends or having all of this sort of normal matric rituals. There's a lot going out, and so they're going to get more and more and more depleted in terms of their energy. And when it's something quite specific, we kind of wait, we'll wait till after exams, and then I'm going to sleep, and then I'm going to rest, and then I'm going to recharge or replenish my tank. And that doesn't usually lead to a burnout, but it's more that the unrelenting pace, where it's, day after day, month after month, that what's going out is more than what's going in. And I think that we're living in a culture which is about go, 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 go. And we all tend to bank our rest and our replenishing for holidays, certainly maybe even just weekends. And then it's kind of quite a big replenishing, you sleep in all the time, perhaps stop exercising, whatever that looks like for different people. And that's creating quite a lot of burden on our body's ability to handle the stress. So what we need daily and weekly replenishings rather than these big ones that come up. Okay. So I'm mixing my metaphors. I'm going to talk about batteries recharging and tanks being filling and having a full cup. So forgive me for mixing all the metaphors, but essentially it's about what's going out through the stress and what's coming in, which is your replenishing and your resources. Okay. So what your resources are, they're not the same for every person. And I think that that's also important. We get a lot of information in sort of popular media about, healthy things, But what's healthy for one person or what's a resource for one person is not necessarily a resource for everyone. So it's important to know what fills up your cup. Maybe it's friends, maybe it's spending time with family or with children, maybe it's exercise. Maybe exercise is something that really fills you up. Sleep, maybe sleep is for some people a precious resource. Maybe it's good food, eating well. Maybe it's even drinking, you know. So sort of when the alcohol was banned, there was a resource that was suddenly absent. It could be any of those sorts of things. For an introvert, the social distancing could have actually been a resource, you know. Now I get to stay at home and I don't have to be around big groups of people. That fills up my tank. Then you need to know, what are your demands? What are the things that are depleting from you? And it's not to say that they're necessarily negative, but they're the things that empty your tank. It could be bills. I think financial demands can be depleting for most of us. It could be chores, housework. It could be the demands of moving into this virtual space, giving talks online, doing all the work we're doing online. The demands of this virus, you know, the worries that we have around our health. So all of these things could be depleting you. And it's really important to know, you know, so I think we're a little bit pressed for time, but, and this is something you can do in your own time, is to just sit maybe when we're finished with today's program and just take a moment to think about, what are the things that fill me up and what are the things that empty me down? And please know you can have something on both lists. You know, I love my kids to bits and pieces. They absolutely fill my tank, but they also drain me sometimes. You know, so knowing that some things could be on both sides. Then the next slide was just sort of the same things, but with different colors. You know, exercising for someone where it's something that they have to do and not something that's enjoyable can be depleting for them. Likewise, alcohol, we might think that our vices are resources without realizing that they're also maybe undermining our health. Social distancing for an extrovert. Bills can kind of deplete most of us. Chores for someone, I have a friend who loves cleaning. It really does fill up her tank. For some people, working from home has been an absolute blessing and a resource. And then COVID is depleting on most things. So yeah, take a moment to understand your own balance of resources and demands, because it's integral in noticing what burnout might be coming down the road. But also when we're talking about boundaries and self-care, knowing these things is going to help inform how you're going to take care of yourself. Okay. Yeah, so burning out, you know, if you look at like the batteries there, you've got like the bright green and then they change the colors, but sometimes we don't notice we're burning out until we're the red battery. And that's also something that's important, is if you're connecting with how much you have in your tank through acts of self-care, through your boundaries, and you're preserving your energy, you become more conscious of how much you have. So now when you're pouring and giving, and you're aware of how much you have, you can actually be better at it. I think the idea, certainly the theme for me for 2020 has been endurance. You know, can we endure being at home the entire time without kids? Can we endure not going to school, not seeing our friends? Can we endure what we thought? I remember the first lockdown was going to be, 21 days. Like that's all we were going to have to endure. And then it got more and more and more. So in order to endure anything, you need to know what you have in the tank. If there are any runners in the group, you need to know, if you're doing a marathon, how far you are in the marathon, so you know how much you need to preserve to get to the end. So that's the concept of connecting with what you have in your tank, so that you can have enough to do what you need to do. Okay.
Take it easy.
I think someone doesn't have their mute on.
Lucy, can you mute yourself, please? Okay.
Okay. Right. I'll see if I can talk over it. So it's important to know, just like I said, what your resources are, what the things that teach you are. And then it's also to know, to connect with how much is in your tank. And then it's important to know, what do you look like when you're burning out? Okay. One of the things that I notice when I'm starting to get lower on my energy is I start to have unread messages. So even in my WhatsApp, I'll like read a message and mark it as unread because I'm like, I just can't get to that right now. I start eating badly. That's also a sign for me. So you need to know, what are these flags that are showing you, so just like when your car bings the petrol light and says you're running low, you need to also know what are the things to bing in your own life to tell you, well, you need to replenish a bit. Okay. And each person is very different. So it's important to take that into account. Some people also have a much lower stress tolerance. So the amount of stress they can actually take on has been lowered through different things, which I'll unpack now. And so it's also important to know that, and maybe when you're working with colleagues, to be able to understand that your stress tolerance might be quite high, and theirs might be a little bit lower. So they might need to take a break a bit sooner or something like that. So some of the elements that influence your stress tolerance, age. Okay, we understand that teenagers seem to have a lot more energy, and it's not to say that the older you get, the worse it gets. I think that if you look at someone who's starting a family, their stress tolerance might drop quite a bit. So it depends on where you are in your life. There is a genetic component to our ability to handle stress, and how quickly someone might burn out. So look at your parents, look at your siblings. That'll give you a clue as well. If perhaps you have a sibling that is struggling with burnout, just take note. You don't necessarily have the exact same genetics, but you do have the underlying genetics, and just be aware of that. Health, so people who have had chronic illnesses, people who've had more surgeries are more susceptible to burnout. So in some ways, you look at their system has had a couple of knocks, and those knocks are going to impact how much energy or petrol can stay in the tank. Okay. Diet. So eating badly can also influence your energy, your stress levels, and how you're coping with stress. Lifestyle, absolutely. We know that people who get outdoors more often, people who do exercise but not exercise that harms their body. We know that people who have close, good support systems, that those people tend to handle stress better. So your lifestyle can definitely influence that. And then access to resources. So the more resources you have, the more likely you're going to maybe replenish or recharge your battery. So a friend of mine was saying, it's such a tough week. She's definitely going for a spa day on Saturday. And that's great, and it's definitely going to fill up her tank. But not everyone has access to those resources all of the time. Okay. So I think what I'm talking about is that each person's approach to what stresses them out and what replenishes them, and their stress tolerance is unique, and you need to find your own puzzle piece Get to know yourself, get to know how your body responds, get to know what fills you up, and start to plug those into your life quite mindfully. And those are the acts of self-care. For me, having a good night's sleep is the biggest act of self-care I can give myself. So I protect it. And, sometimes I might be asked to maybe go and see some friends, and I know that's going to be a late night. And I weigh it up because, yes, seeing friends also fills up my tank. Does it fill up my tank enough to lose the hours of sleep that I would lose? And then I sit and I weigh that up and make the decision depending on where my battery is at. If I'm at a green, then yeah, go have fun, do that. So I'll catch up on sleep. But if I'm in an orange or a red, that's a time when I need to say, would love to come, but I'm going to leave at 9 o'clock, or something like that. Okay, so think about yourself, think about your own puzzle pieces. All right. Any questions? I'm happy to pause here for a little bit and see if there are any questions. No? Okay. We'll move on then. All right. So we're going to take a moment to imagine. Okay. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you, or you can just stare at the screen. But I want you to take a moment and just kind of settle down. It's Friday, it's been a busy week, lots has been happening. So I just want you to take just a few deep breaths and just kind of calm yourself down. For the next couple of moments, all you need to do really is just use your imagination and listen to the sound of my voice. Okay. So I want you to imagine a cup. Just a cup. It can be any kind of cup you want. It can be a really plain white ceramic mug. It could be a big goblet. Anything that comes to mind is absolutely okay. Just take a moment to imagine a cup. Now I want you to decorate this cup. Add to it whatever colors you need to add. Mold it into whatever you need it to look like. Perhaps you mold it into aspects of yourself, that your hobbies or things you enjoy. Whatever it needs to be, just take a moment to picture your cup. Once you have a good idea of what it looks like, just imagine holding it in your hands and looking inside. And this cup holds your energy. It holds all the energy, the love, the effort, everything that you use to get through your life. And your cup holds your energy. And just take a moment. Perhaps what's filling your cup is clear, beautiful water. Perhaps it's sparkling gold liquid. Perhaps it has bubbles. Perhaps your cup is filled with diamonds and gems. Just let your imagination fill up your cup with whatever resonates with you to be your energy. And because we can use our imagination in any way we want, I want you to let that cup be as full as it needs to be. Perhaps you think it needs even more liquid inside, then make the cup bigger. It's your imagination, so anything goes. Perhaps your cup ends up being the size of a swimming pool. Perhaps you're happy with it being the size of a normal cup sitting in your hand. And I want you to now imagine some of the things that replenish you, some of the things that fill your cup. And just take a moment to recognize what those things are for you. What you might notice when you're thinking about those things, maybe those people, it could be animals, could be hobbies, could be work. Whenever you're connecting with the things that fill your cup, just notice how it feels in your body. I always notice a warm and fuzzy feeling. Kind of makes you want to smile. Just to know that this is your cup, and what it is filled with is the things that fill you up. And anytime you need to, you can close your eyes and picture your cup and see whether it needs to be filled. And know that you can do that. So take another moment or two to enjoy your cup. Perhaps you might want to sip from it. Whatever works, take a moment for that. And when you're ready, you can set your cup down, open your eyes, and bring your attention back into the room, whichever room you're in. I wonder if anyone wants to share what that was like for them. You don't have to, but if anyone wants to, we could hear about it. I'm going to let my cat in because she's calling me. Come. So this is my cat. She's one of the things that fills my cup, and clearly wants to be included. So when I started doing this exercise, I just had a very normal kind of mug, but I can tell you that my cup now looks like this, sparkly with gems, gold, and it's ornate. So by all means, yeah.
Only explained Annexure 2009. No.
Hazel, Hazel, do you want to share?
2019.
Sorry, I think Hazel keeps coming in and out.
Okay.
But actually, Lauren, I wanted to just share and kind of try and think about self-care and burnout and these things quite regularly. But I found actually quite surprised by how empty my cup was. I was sort of expecting that, I try to do a lot of things to take care of myself, but I think I haven't monitored it or I haven't looked at it in quite a while, and so just that sitting with it for a while was quite emotional for me, actually. So thank you. Oh, you're on mute, Lauren.
My cat must have stood on it. Thank you for sharing that, Carrie. Yeah, I think that I want to say people in the helping professions, but I actually think all people, we all want to be there for others and be kind and caring. And we don't realize perhaps how much we're running on empty while we're doing that. And so to take the time to just notice is really important. Anyone else want to share? This is when it's much better when we're all in a room together.
Sorry, Lauren, I think they're a bit of a shy group here at RHI. So I think, I mean, a lot of these things are very new to a lot of people about filling your cup. And you've introduced some ideas of how we can fill that. But when we've reached the point where like filling the cup just doesn't feel possible, what do we do?
Thank you. That's a beautiful segue into the next part of what I want to talk about. And that is really around boundaries.
Sorry, there is a hand from Ruth Kekana. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead,
Thanks.
Ruth.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the exercise. Yeah, I share the same sentiment as Carrie. It really was quite difficult for me to fill my cup. And I guess it's mostly because I tend to put more of other people first and me last. So my cup is pretty empty and it still feels empty even now. So I guess perhaps this is one exercise that I need to do more often, just to focus on my mental health, on myself for some time. Like it's really not wrong to do that, Yeah, I guess it's an eye opener for me. So I will do more of it just to fill my cup. At some point, it needs to be recharged.
Yes, it does. Good. Thank you, Ruth. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
I just want to jump in quickly to say that I know it is 3:20, so technically it's like a 10-minute warning, but we did start a little bit late. So Shanaz, I don't know if it would be possible for Lauren to take any more time, or
Yes, so I have told Monica from yoga she will start a little later.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, it's like a 20-minute warning, I guess.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, well then maybe let's move along, because I think that just from the short feedback that we've gotten, the next stuff is probably going to be quite relevant. So why are boundaries important in terms of preventing, managing, or recovering from burnout? And it's also why the cup metaphor really resonates with me, because boundaries are in some ways, not in some ways, probably in all ways, is the actual structure of your cup. Okay, your boundaries hold your energy, just like your cup holds your liquid. And if you don't have good boundaries, you're going to lose that energy. It's going to pour out of you in a way that perhaps you don't intend. So even if you imagine a big crack in your cup, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a big crack. I don't know if you've ever seen those cups where you'll have like a hairline crack, and you'll suddenly notice the coffee is, spilling out the bottom. So if you find that as some of you have shared, like in doing the visualization and you look into your cup and it's emptier than you thought it would be, there's very possibly some leaks. And so it's important to look at boundaries in your life and understand that boundaries are one of the biggest acts of self-care you can do, because if you have good boundaries, you can hold your energy. Okay, and then with all that liquid in your cup, you can pour it to whoever you want to and however you want to, rather than leaking it away. So the boundaries is the act of self-care. I mean, there are lots of acts of self-care, but for me, it's one of the most important ones in terms of understanding how much energy we have and how much we're wanting to give to other people. And there's also the principle of you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are in an airline and you're sitting doing the safety checks before you fly, and they tell you, if there's a drop in cabin pressure and the oxygen mask going to come down, you have to put it on yourself first before anyone else. And that is the principle of if you're not okay, the people around you, you're not going to be any good to them. Okay. And this is a hard one. This is the one I took 3 burnouts to learn, is I can't be the person to the people that I love and care about if I'm not okay. I can't pour if my cup is empty. So to take the time to do those boundaries, to take care of the cracks in your cup, to keep your cup beautiful, then pouring in becomes the, going for a walk, spending the night with friends, all of that becomes the liquid that fills your cup, but it stays because of the boundaries. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about boundaries.
Sorry, Lauren, we have a question.
Yes, please interrupt.
Can you explain why we find it so difficult to put ourselves first or care for ourselves as people who work in this helping or caring field?
That's a really, really good question. I think it links a bit to identity, and it links a bit to values, and I'm going to talk a bit about values now when we do more boundaries. So our identity lies in what we do, and usually we choose what we do quite connected to what we're good at. So if you're good at helping people, and you know that when you help people, you can see that you're effective at it, then it also feels good to help people. And so, if you've got good career guidance, you end up going into a field where you can help people, and that is part of your identity. And so we often feel that because it's who I am, I need to honor it all the time. Okay. So the analogy that I kind of use sometimes is, you can be a Ferrari, right? And Ferraris drive fast, and, they're sporty and all of that. But if you're a Ferrari with no petrol in the petrol tank, then you're useless, then the sort of old Skidonkey's Golf is going to go faster than you, So if being someone who's helpful, someone who wants to be there for others and help other people through their own pain and suffering, then you have to be the best at that you can be, which means putting petrol in the petrol tank. Okay, but we fear, perhaps I can say I've certainly feared it, that if I'm taking care of myself first, that doesn't look very helpful or caring. It looks selfish, and that word kind of makes us all cringe. We can't possibly, how do I reconcile being kind and caring and helpful with selfish? They don't mix. And that's some of the work that we need to do as people in the helping professions, to understand that what will get in the way of you being the helping person you want to be is an empty tank. Okay. So to be the best you can be, you've got to fill up the cup or fill up the tank, if I'm mixing my metaphors, so that you can be who you are from an identity point of view. Does that make sense? Does it answer the question?
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I think that's a great explanation.
Okay. And then I'll talk a bit about values, because that will lie into the values too when we go on to the next slide. So I was thinking about boundaries. We use the word a lot. What does it mean even? And the dictionary definition, or the online dictionary definition, says that it's a line which marks the limits of an area. And I quite like that, because it talks about limits. So your boundary is that solid line that says, this is me and this is you, or this is me and this is what you're asking of me. And my boundary is the line that I'm drawing to show you where I'm willing to go and where I'm not willing to go. Okay. And it's so important, because if you don't have boundaries, then how do you know when you've overstepped the limit? Whether that's a limit of energy, whether that's a limit of perhaps even behaviors that you don't really want to do. When is it a limit of someone taking too much from you? If you don't know the line, then you're not going to know when you've overstepped it. Okay. And there are different kinds of boundaries. I mean, I've put different pictures of different fences, but some people because perhaps they've been hurt in the past, perhaps they feel very unsafe in the world, might put up a really good boundary, you know, high fence, barbed wire, electric, all of that sort of stuff. And someone else might have just a little rope, you know, this is my boundary. You can come in and out as you wish. And actually, when it comes to boundaries, they need to be permeable. They need to be movable depending on how much is in your cup. Okay, so when your cup is starting to get empty, your boundaries have to become more firm, right? If I've got just this much energy, I'm going to protect it. I'm only going to give it out to the things that really, really, really matter or are going to fill me up. Okay, and that's also important. You know, so being able to say no to something that you would normally say yes to, perhaps helping someone, but the no is about saying, I'm going to say no so I can replenish so that I can say yes. Okay. So let's talk a bit more about that, about the limits that the boundaries need to be around. So I've mentioned values, and this is really at the core, is if you know what your values are, or your purpose, or the reason you do things, if you can connect to that, then that becomes one of the strongest ways to put your boundaries, and it also becomes easy. So I value my sleep because I value my health, because I've had health issues. So instead of just saying I value my health, I have to move it up to the limits of that. I value my sleep because I value my health. And actually, if I unpack why do I value my health so much, it's because I value my family. You know, my children, when I've had health issues in the past, have said, like, Mom, we want you to be around forever. And they mean the world to me. So it's building on those values that I start to know where my boundaries need to be. That when I'm saying no to something because I'm trying to protect my health, that feels congruent for me. It feels like a much easier boundary to make than if I'm just saying no. And then I'm gritting, going, oh gosh, that feels so selfish. It feels so selfish. When I can align it to my values, it doesn't feel as selfish anymore. Okay. And I'll give some examples now. We'll do some boundary setting examples. Then you also need to set your boundary according to your limits of your capacity. Okay, and this is that how much is in the tank. If you are on red, then you need more boundaries. Okay, if you're on green, then your capacity is more. Then saying yes to stuff is fine. You know, it's not so much, I suppose, in lockdown and that, but certainly before, you know, sometimes I would find myself with a weekend where I'd have a kid's birthday party Saturday morning, then Saturday after, or maybe a work thing in the morning, then an afternoon kids party, and then Sunday a family obligation. And I've had a really, really busy week. So my capacity to bring my energy into those places is diminished. So thinking about that, and then my capacity is low, where am I going to put my boundaries jumps to my values. So I've got kids' school, birthday party, work stuff, family obligation. My values is going to tell me where am I going to pour that little bit of energy I have. I'm going to go and see my family on Sunday, you know, so I'm going to excuse myself from the work thing and miss the party, or maybe drop my kid off if he's old enough, you know, consciously, mindfully thinking about my capacity, my limits, and linking it back to my values. And then the last one is also around commitments and obligations. Okay, you know, part of being an adult is that we have to do the things that we're committed to do. So there's certain professional obligations. There's also, I think, civil obligations. You know, just being a part of society, we're committed to certain things, and that again talks to your values, talks to your integrity. But being able to put those limits, you know, if I've said that I'm going to volunteer, I don't know, I'll say what's something that's maybe relevant in my life, down the Spruit that I'll have like cleanup days, and if I commit to that, And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm really tired, so I'm going to miss the cleanup day because I'm going to go and chill with my friends in the afternoon. Does that resonate? Are those commitments something that I need to honor? So thinking about what you've committed to, what is your capacity, and what are your values, and then weighing those things up to decide, how am I going to spend this energy that's inside my cup? And using your boundaries then to monitor that. Okay, hoping we're still making sense. And then I think I spoke a little bit about this before, but the why must I fill my cup first? Okay, so I'm going to say it again. You cannot pour from an empty cup. It's scary when you're naturally someone who's giving and you're naturally someone who wants to be there for others. And saying yes it resonates with your values. Then to say, well, how do I fill myself first? And the image that comes to my mind, and when it does, it calms me down quite a bit, is the idea of overflowing. That if I'm a cup and I'm filling and I'm filling and I'm filling and I'm filling and I start to overflow, everyone around me gets the overflow. And yes, that might seem like a nice image, but I think I've experienced that in my life, that when I take care of myself, and I challenge you to spend a weekend taking care of yourself, filling up your cup, putting up the boundaries, and then notice how everyone around you is. When I model self-care to my children, and I say things like, Mom's had a really rough day, so I'm going to go and take a nice bath. And I think, oh no, I'm not spending time with them. Oh my gosh, I'm being such a terrible mother. Da, 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 da. What actually happens, and it was very sweet the one time my son came and he knocked on the door. He's like, Mommy, I made you some tea, and he brought me tea. And he felt so good that he could take care of me in that moment. Came out of my bath and I was feeling much calmer. Wasn't going to tear everyone's heads off. And then we only had half an hour of time together versus the hour that we would normally have had. But it was so rich. You know, he was able to understand that I'd needed some time alone. It also meant that he learned that he could ask for time to replenish himself. So think about those moments where you full, and you overflow to all the people around you, to the people you work with, to family, to friends. Geez, even to, like, you know, you go to the shops down the road, and if your tank is full, then suddenly, there's my cat again, sorry, suddenly greeting people, you know, it becomes easier, and now you're smiling at the checkout person, and that fills their cup up. So the idea of overflowing, I've really felt that was something I wasn't expecting to notice, but it's certainly something I have noticed. Okay, so I challenge you to overflow and see what happens. But let's use the last bit of time we have to talk about how to put up effective boundaries. Okay, so we've spoken about knowing what your values are, knowing what you want, what fills your cup, what your resources are, and knowing what depletes your cup. Okay, but then you want to put up an effective boundary. And I learned these 3 steps many years ago when I was a psychology master's student. And I've used it ever since, and I've taught everyone I can it, because it really works. So let's get an example to give you the 3 steps. I don't usually consult on a Friday afternoon. When I went into my kids were young, and I wanted to dedicate Friday afternoons to them. So it's very close to my values. It was my commitment and my values. So let's say I get a client who calls me at about 11 o'clock on a Friday and says, Lauren, I'm having an awful day. Everything's falling apart. Nothing's going right. I really need to have a session this afternoon. Step 1, acknowledge what the other person wants. Okay. Step 2, put your boundary, set your limit. Step 3, give an alternative. Okay. So step 1, acknowledge what the other person wants. I can hear you're having a really rough day, and what you need is to have a session with me as soon as possible. Okay. Step 2, put the limit. I'm afraid I'm not available this afternoon. You don't need to describe why. You just put the limit. I'm afraid I'm not available. Step 3, give alternatives. I'm happy to speak to you now on the phone. I'm happy to see you Saturday morning. I'm happy to give you the number of someone, you know, a lifeline number, or so you give alternatives. All right. The reason you do step 1, if you don't acknowledge what the person wants, they're going to keep telling you. Okay. They're going to think you haven't heard, and they're going to keep asking. All right. Mommy, can I have some ice cream? No, you can't have any ice cream. Mommy, can I have some ice cream? Please, can I have some ice cream? Mommy, can I have some ice cream? So if you say, I know you really, really want to have some ice cream right now, but we don't have ice cream for breakfast. There's the limit. Alternatives. You can have ice cream this afternoon after you've done your homework. Okay. Acknowledge, limit, alternatives. If you don't put the limit, so you say, I can hear you really, really, really want to have ice cream. You can definitely have ice cream after homework today. What happens is the person will push because you never showed them where the line is. So they'll go again. Okay, but I want to have ice cream now, Mommy. Okay. Acknowledge. I know you really want to have ice cream. You cannot have ice cream now. Limit. But you can have ice cream later. Give an alternative. If you don't give the alternative, so you acknowledge and you draw the limit, the person is leaving with nothing, okay? And so they're likely to feel like we didn't hear them. They might even think, oh gosh, you're terrible, you're not helping me, whatever it is, you have no control over what they think. But by giving them the alternatives, you're saying, these are what I'm willing to do. So maybe I have this much in my cup, so this is the alternative I'm giving you, okay? And if you do all 3, the person, I'm going to say very often, but always, takes it, okay? Because they feel heard, they understand your limit, and you've told them what you are willing to do with the alternatives. Okay, so again, also a challenge to do after this in the next couple of days, and actually once you get it down, you'll do it for the rest of your life. Acknowledge, limit, and then alternative. So I'll share a funny story. I was in the car with my husband and he was on a work call. It was a Saturday afternoon, pre-COVID, and got a call and I could hear something servers and something this and something that and everything. And he said, wow, I can hear that you're quite upset, like stuff's going wrong and you're in a little bit of crisis. You know, unfortunately, it's a Saturday afternoon, so I'll be in Monday morning and sort it out. Alternatively, you can phone whoever's on call. And he put the phone down and I looked at him and I was like, I'm so proud of you. And he's like, what? And I was like, you did the 3 steps. Because I've obviously been doing them to him a lot over the years. So he didn't even realize he was doing it and he was doing the 3 steps. Okay, so one more time. Acknowledge what the person wants, set your limit, and give alternatives. Okay. All right, we're nearly near the end. Getting closer to yoga. So you cannot pour from an empty cup. All right. Burnout is the empty cup. You need to keep your boundaries solid so that your cup can hold the energy that you pour in. Okay. And just a few more kind of tips to wrap it up. If there are any cracks in your cup, so trauma, excessive stress, the things that are happening in your life that are big, those are the cracks, and it's important to mend them. And I'm sure a lot of you spend time helping other people mend their cracks, but it's really important to mend your own. So that might be your own therapy, it might be yoga, it might be medical cracks. You know, if you're having some underlying conditions and you're not taking care of those things, those are going to crack your cup and you're going to leak energy from it. So mending the cracks. Take time to replenish what you use intentionally, okay? So for me, this is going to empty my cup a lot more. I'm not used to talking so much. I'm also not used to technology. So I know that at the end of this talk, I'm going to feel more depleted than I would normally feel on a Friday afternoon. So I'm going to intentionally fill up the cup because I intentionally emptied it. Okay. So for me, it's going to be a nice walk with the dogs. Eliminate ways that you lose your energy. So you know those people that like to sip out of your cup and you didn't even give them permission. Be conscious about that and start to put boundaries around that. And then, which we've spoken about, create effective boundaries to keep your energy. Okay, that is all that I have this afternoon. Please, yeah, I'd love to hear some questions or comments. I'm sure we can 5 minutes to sort of wrap up and see if anyone has anything to ask.
We do have a question, Lauren, from Criselda on when it comes to work, how does one create boundaries without feeling like it's insubordination towards the seniors?
That is a really, really good question. And I think that for work, it can often turn into the conversation about capacity. So if you look at values, capacity, and commitment, so often work, we're like, well, this is your commitment. You're committed to doing the things that you need to do, and to be able to have a conversation about capacity. And I know that in an ideal space, seniors are open to those conversations, and often they themselves are sitting with quite a lot of burnout and depleted, so their tolerance to be able to, pour and listen and be empathic can be quite low. So I think that a day like today and having the organization acknowledge mental health is great. And you want to encourage teammates and colleagues and all of that to keep their own cups as full as possible, but to have conversations to say, I need to talk to you about my capacity. I need you to understand I'm not talking to you about my commitment, but my capacity. So, and there needs to be a real acknowledgement of that. And if you find that a senior staff member or a manager isn't able to understand your capacity, then perhaps, and I don't know how your organization works, but to have conversations within the HR space, because often, and when I work with sort of more senior people in corporates around burnout, it always surprises me because very often the senior people don't realize that that people are burning out. And once they do, I remember one organization, there was a mom and her daughter was going through some really difficult stuff, and she was needing to, take the child to therapy appointments, and she was having to do quite a lot of energy pouring in that space, but she never told her direct manager what was happening. So he didn't know that her capacity was diminishing. But when she did, he was like, well, of course you can take a bit of time. And often we don't want to mix our personal life with our work life. I get all of that. And I think that that's where the challenges do lie. But I'm going to say this, I know it's not the greatest thing to say, but sometimes you have to have the uncomfortable conversations because you're worth it. Because if you don't, eventually your cup is going to run dry. And when that happens, your health is at risk, ultimately, which means your job is at risk too. If you're not okay, you can't do your job well. Okay, I hope that helped.
Just another question from the chat box. How do we more easily end relationships that are not good for us, both personal and with colleagues?
Sure. That could be a whole other hour's talk, I think.
Yeah.
It is quite difficult. So I think what I would do is I would first do some self-reflection around that relationship and really try to understand why do I want to end it? What is it about that relationship that is unsustainable? And it will either come down to values, or it will come down to capacity. be the commitment that we're going to struggle with. How do I end the commitment? So just to reflect on those things. And then I think you can use the 3 steps also in ending something, not just in setting a boundary, but to say, let's say a personal friendship, to be able to say, you're someone that I can see that what you want is to have a really, really close friendship, and you really enjoy us doing stuff together. And for you, that's really, really important. But I'm afraid I'm not able to do that. I can't give up my weeknights to spend time with you. And then that's where the alternatives come in, is like what that might mean. If you need more than that, then the alternative is we end this friendship. Or we in this relationship, which if they can't hear your limit or your boundaries, then perhaps ending the relationship is the alternative. With colleagues too, is interesting, because sometimes, we don't have as much choice around being around colleagues. But again, I think it's the conversation of firstly acknowledging what is it that they need from you, being able to set your limits, and then providing those alternatives. And the alternative part can be open for negotiation, but not if it touches your limits. Okay. So if I go back to the client wanting to have a session, if they're like, okay, well, what if you saw me at 1 o'clock? And I'm like, I'm afraid I'm not available, but I'll talk to you 1:45 for 15 minutes. My limit is 1 o'clock. So being able to kind of engage with the 3 steps and the alternatives where perhaps ending the relationship might come in.
I don't think we have any more questions, and I think we probably do have to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
But Lauren, I mean, we just want to thank you from Pitsari Chai side. So sorry about the technological glitches to you and to everyone on the call. But thank you so much. This has been so helpful, so relevant for us. I know I've learned a lot, and I think all of us on the call have learned something about how to take better care of ourselves. So I think thank you so much for giving up your time and your energy and like giving us a little bit from your cup today as well. We really appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. So this presentation has actually been recorded, so that a lot of people who could not join us today can actually get an opportunity to learn from you. I remember learning those boundary things at university, but I totally forgotten them, and I will be sure to use them again. I hope that everyone in the Institute starts talking in that way. Yeah, it'll be quite interesting. So next up, we actually have some yoga. You please feel free to stay if you'd like. Monica is on the call at the moment. So thank you again, Lauren, and we will hopefully have you back again to talk about some more topical and interesting issues that people are experiencing. You are still muted, I think.
Thank you very much. I'd love that. Yeah, take care, everyone, and fill up those cups.
Thank you. Okay, so Monica, sorry to do this quick kind of switch around for time purposes. So I hope everyone's in their comfy clothes. If not, don't stress. And you don't have to put your videos on. I know last time people were quite conscious about that, and I do understand. After seeing my own bottom in the air, I do understand. So do you have ability to put your video on? Nope.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
My video is on. I can see myself. There you go.
Okay.
That's better.
Let me just
All right.
Okay, there you are.
Right. Okay, shall I start?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you for joining me, everybody. We'll just have a 45 minutes gentle workout do what you can. If you feel any pain, then rather come out and sit cross-legged again. But if you can, just push ourselves a little bit in each pose so that at the end of the class we feel that we've worked, and we'll give ourselves the opportunity to have a bit of a relaxation at the end. So, are you all seated cross-legged? If not, sit on the floor somewhere where you're comfortable. Cross-legged and fingertips on the floor and stretch. Try and elongate the spine and get the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Now we're going to stretch our arms up. So revolve the arms to the outside. So your thumbs are pointing back, palms are facing outside. Inhale, and as you inhale, take your arms up towards the ceiling. Bring your hands shoulder width apart and try and reach for the ceiling, and you'll feel the stretch coming from the abdomen. Then turn your palms forward, and on the exhalation, stretch forward, place your palms on the floor. And let your forehead hang down, moving towards the floor. And just take 3 breaths. And then on the exhalation of the 3rd breath, come back to stretching your hands up to the ceiling, palms facing forward. So you come out of the pose in exactly the opposite steps as you went in, and exhale, take the hands down. Change the cross of the legs, so you straighten your legs and change so that the other leg is in front. And again, puffing up the chest, bringing the shoulders back, revolve the arms, inhale, stretch the hands up. Stretch your hands up to the fingertips, see if you can feel in your abdomen how it becomes light, narrow, and long. And again, exhale, stretch forward. When you're stretching forward, your breathing can't be so deep, so feel what's happening inside and just allow the volume of breath to match the capacity of your lungs. And then on an exhalation, inhale, stretch your hands up and release the hands to the floor. Then I want you to straighten your legs forward. Feet can be together, but if it causes discomfort or you feel you can't maintain the seat, you can part your feet a little bit. It does help you to sit upright. Then again, we're going to inhale, stretch the hands up to the ceiling. And on the exhalation, again, fold forward and see if you can reach your toes. Hold on to the little toe side of your foot, bend your elbows and pull yourself forward. This time you feel the stretch in your lower back. Let your head hang down so that you soften. And on each exhalation, can you feel that softening in the breath softens the muscles and allows you to fold further forward. Holding it for a few breaths. If you find you tense, rather come up a few millimeters until you feel you can hold the pose without causing any tension in the body. Now you're going to come up again, so inhale, and on the exhalation, stretch your fingers up to the ceiling and release them down to the side. Okay. Now we're going to do a combination of these two. So you're going to bend one leg and put the sole of the foot into the inner thigh of the straight leg. Face the straight leg. Stretch the hands up. And on the exhalation, fold forward and reach for your foot. If you only reach the ankle, it's fine. It doesn't matter where you hold. Just hold on to that straight leg somewhere, bend the elbows, and on the exhalation, fold forward. And again, hold for 3 breaths. We don't rush in these poses. You just feel the stretch, feel the softness, and when you're ready, inhale, Stretch the hands up to the ceiling. Exhale, release the hands down to the side. So you've got to do both sides. You straighten the leg that was bent and bend the leg that was straight. Facing the foot of the straight leg. Inhale, stretch the hands up. Feel that lightness in the abdomen. Feel the length in your spine. Feel the fingers moving up towards the ceiling and exhale and fold forward. Reaching for your foot or your ankle or your shin bone. But on the exhalation, see if you can soften into the pose, folding over that leg. And hold it for a few breaths. So it is not an aerobic class, it is we work on making you supple, stretching the muscles, and not on increasing the heartbeat. Then to come out, inhale, stretch your hands up to the ceiling. Exhale, release the hands down to the side. I want you to come onto your knees. So if you can see me, you're going to come onto all fours. Then you're going to pull your knee towards your chin. Exhale, straighten that leg. Inhale, pull the knees to your chin. Exhale, straighten the leg. So let's all start together. Come onto all fours. Hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. Let's start with the right leg. Inhale, pull the knee towards the chin and move the chin towards the knee. Exhale, straighten the leg. Pointing the toes back. Inhale, pull the knee to the chin. Exhale, stretch that leg back. We're going to do 3 times. Last time on the right side. Inhale, nose to chin. Exhale, straighten the legs. Bring that knee down next to the left knee, and we'll do the left side. Inhale, pull the left knee to the chin. Exhale, straighten the leg out to the back, pointing your toes. Inhale, pull the knee to the chin. Exhale, straighten the leg. Last time on this side, pull the knee to the chin. Exhale, straighten that leg. Bring that knee down next to the right knee and sit on your heels. It's going to demonstrate the next pose. So we're going to repeat what we did now by stretching the one leg out, but now you're going to take the hand out as well and stretch the hand forward. Then you're going to go to the other side. So one leg is back and one arm is forward. So let's start all together. Come back onto all fours. The toes are pointing back, the knees underneath the hips. Inhale, on the exhalation, straighten the left leg and stretch the right arm forward. Try and keep your balance, don't fall over. Inhale, place your knee and your hand down. Exhale, go to the other side. Twice more each side, so inhale, bring the knee down, exhale, lift the opposite leg. Inhale, bring the hand and knee down, exhale, other side. See that you can hold your balance. Inhale, bring the hand and the knee down. Last 2 sides. On the exhalation, lift the back, one leg and the opposite arm. Give yourself a stretch. Bring the hand back and last side. Exhale, stretch your fingers forward, stretch your toes back, and then come back, sitting on your heels. All right, now you're going to come onto your knees and take one foot forward so that your foot is underneath the knee and you've created a square with that lifted leg. And we're going to do a lunge. So your hands are on your knees, you face forward, take long, slow, full inhalation, fill those lungs up so that you have the energy to exhale, bend that lunge forward over the front leg. Feel the stretch in the back thigh. And then come up. So, off you go. Take your favorite leg, whichever one wants to go. Exhale, lunge forward. Feel the stretch in the thigh of the back leg. Come back and do 3 times. Onto that knee, exhale, lunge forward. The heel of the front leg may lift. 3 times to each side. So that you've done 6 lunges in all. Change sides if you've finished the one side. So it's 3 times to each side. Okay. Give you a few more seconds to finish. Right. Now we are going to come into downward facing dog. So you come back into your all-four position. Again, take an inhalation, and on the exhalation, straighten the legs, stretch your heels to the floor, move your chest towards your thighs. Hold this pose. Try and imagine or feel that you are in a shape of a V. The top of your buttocks is the point of the V. The V is upside down. Buttocks are the top of the V. So from that top point down to your hands, and from the top point down to your heels are equal in length. You have as much work in the legs as you do in the arms. You try and even out the balance. Let both legs and both hands do equal amount of work. Few more seconds. Take on the exhalation, can you move your chest closer to your thigh? Now before we come out, we're going to raise one leg at a time. So bring your feet so that the both feet are touching, the big toe and the heels are touching. So bring your feet to the center of the mat. Again, take a deep, full inhalation, and as you exhale, lift one leg high up to the ceiling. See how high you can lift that leg up. Hold it just for 3 breaths. And then on the exhalation, bring that leg down and take the other leg up. Take a deep breath in between. Every time you inhale, you're gathering energy so that you can do the difficult movement on the exhalation, using the energy that you have breathed in. Then bring that leg down, walk your feet forward, come to a standing position. And face your screens. I'm going to ask you to balance like a tree now. So we're going to repeat the first pose we did, but in a standing position. If you need some support from the wall, you go stand close to the wall and put one hand into the wall. So let's work together. Standing what we call Tadasana, mountain pose, feet together. Then you're going to balance on one leg, bend the other leg, put the sole of the foot into the inner thigh of the bottom of the straight leg, and see if you can find your balance. So it's on the inner thigh, it's not in the front. Can you find your balance, or go to a wall and put your opposite hand in the wall? There we go, not so easy, I know it's a challenge. And those who've got your balance, can you again stretch your hands up to the ceiling? Oops. And again, hold for 3 breaths and release your foot down when you finish that side. Take a few breaths. When the balance doesn't come, when the foot is slipping, you get irritated, you get confused, you get tired. So you need to just recover. Then when you're ready, go to the other side. So find that you can stand firmly on the other leg so that you raise the second leg up into the inner So the heel, whole sole of the foot is pressing into the inner thigh. Press the bottom leg, the straight leg, those big toes, the big toe must push into your mat. And then if you can, stretch your hands up. Find your balance, find the quietness of the pose. And exhale and release. Very good. All right. Now, you're going to, again, I will show you first. So just stand with your hands on your hips for a few seconds. With your feet hip width apart, you're going to stretch your hands up, go into a forward stretch with fingertips on the floor. And then you're going to raise one leg up, bring that leg down, raise the other leg up. And bring that leg down and come out of the pose. So, if you know you're very supple and it looks easy, then you can have your feet together. But if you feel you need, part the feet so that the feet are hip distance apart. Stretch your fingers down to the floor, revolve the arms so that the thumbs are pointing out, so you revolve outwards. Inhale, stretch the hands up to the ceiling. Turn the palms forward. Exhale, fold forward and bring your fingertips onto the floor. Alright, if you need to bend your legs, you can, but it does mean you need to have your feet slightly wider apart because it's hard to stand on that one leg if the knee is bent. Now, just take a few breaths, and when you are ready, on the exhalation, raise your right leg up as high as you can. Imagine you're doing the splits, but in a standing position. So in your own time, you're standing on one leg and you're lifting the other leg. Hold it for a few breaths. I'm not going to count or force you to hold it longer than you are able. When you're ready, bring that foot down, and if you still have control, you still got your balance, you raise the other leg up. So bring that first leg down and raise the second leg. Lift that leg, some more, some more, some more. You're trying to go in the splits, so the top foot must be above the bottom foot. And then exhale, bring that leg down and come to a standing position. All right, hands on the hips again for a few seconds. Upside down confuses your brain. Your lungs start demanding more air and you get out of breath. So I'm going to demonstrate the next pose. Just spend a few seconds watching me and getting your breath back. So we're prepared for this pose. You're going to start by stretching your hands up, stepping one foot back, keep looking forward, keep stretching the hands up, and then you're going to bend the front leg, hold it for 3 breaths. Then you're going to straighten that leg, step forward, and release the hands down. So we'll go together. Make sure you can step back, so if you have a mat, be on the front edge of the mat. If you're somewhere on the floor, make sure there's space. You're going to take a big step back. Feet hip width apart. Inhale, stretch the hands up to the ceiling. Again, feel that stretch in the abdominal area. Feel that the fingertips are moving out towards the ceiling. Take another deep inhalation, and as you exhale, step the right foot back. Keep facing forward. Keep stretching the hands up. Take another inhalation, and on the exhalation, bend the front leg. Keep looking forward. This time we're going to hold a bit longer. So feel that you're able to raise your body up out of the hips, keeping the back leg straight, front leg bent. Then inhale, straighten the front leg and step the right foot forward. Release the hands to the sides. Feel your breath. Now we've got to go to the other side. So inhale, stretch the hands up. Exhale, step the left foot back. Step the left foot back, keep facing forward. Take a few breaths, and then when you're ready to continue, inhale, and on the exhalation, bend the right knee. Right, take a few breaths. And then inhale, straighten that right leg. Step your left foot forward. Release the hands down to the side. And come back to seated position. Right. Have your feet facing forward. You're going to part your feet wide. And we're going into a gentle twist, so stretch your legs apart. Fingertips on the floor next to your buttocks. Then you're going to take your right hand onto the left knee, left hand to the back. So I'll just move a little bit, and you're going to go into it. So in your own time, right hand onto left, outer left knee, left hand behind you, and on the exhalation, twist. On the second exhalation, twist a little bit more. And on the third exhalation, twist even further. Then inhale, come up, face forward, and on the next exhalation to the other side. So left hand on the outside of the right knee, exhale, go into your twist. Allow the lungs to fill. On the next exhalation, twist a little bit further. And on the last exhalation, twist even further, and then come to face forward again. Still got the feet apart. We're going to take our fingers in front, exhale, and stretch those fingers forward. So off you go. Fingertips on the floor in front of you, and walk those fingers forward. Pull the abdomen in. Each time you walk your feet a little bit forward, if you can bring the skin of the abdomen into your body, towards your spine, it allows you to stretch slightly further. Just holding it there for a few seconds. And then inhale and come up. Bring your feet together. Sit in Dandasana once more. So now we're going to lie down. You're first going to have that knee into your chest, and then you're going to see if you can bring this shin bone over your chest so that you're stretching the back thigh. So let's go. Lie down on your back. Lift the right leg. Hug the knee to you, so the knee is going to your armpit. And then reach up so that the opposite hand is holding the little toe side of your foot, and pull that whole shin bone over your chest. The other leg is still on the floor. That's it. Just hold a few seconds, pull that leg in. Then release and do the other side. So let that leg come down on the floor. Raise the other leg. Hug the knee to your chest first. So actually the knee goes to the armpit. And then hold on to the foot with the opposite side with the hand on the opposite side and pull that shin bone over your chest. Hold a few seconds. Right, then release. Then we're going to go into the bridge pose, and if you were with me last time we did it, we're just going to repeat it. You lie on your back. So if you need to see, you just have a look. Bring those heels close to the buttocks. Press the palms down onto the floor. Wait until you're ready to do the pose, and then take a deep, full, slow inhalation, and as you exhale, lift those hips up. Try and bring the hips as high as your knees. And try and stay there for a few breaths. Press the heels into the floor, lift the thighs up to the ceiling, a little bit higher. And exhale and come down. We're going to repeat twice more, and if you feel you can, you're going to raise one leg up. So inhale, and on the exhalation, lift those hips up again. Then keep your balance on your right foot and lift the left leg up to point the toes towards the ceiling. There we go. Again, hold for a few seconds. Then when you're ready, come down. Take a few breaths and do to the other side. So feel the breathing to come back to normal. Then inhale, on the exhalation, lift those hips up and raise one leg up. Lift those hips up a little bit more, and exhale and bring that leg down. Come down to the floor, hug your knees to your chest once more. So now both legs are bent. And then we'll go into relaxation from here. So we're going to spend 4 minutes just lying down flat on the floor, letting your energy come back. So you're just lying down, arms to the side, feet apart. And we're going to spend 4 minutes like that. So just feel your breathing quieting down at its own pace. Sometimes, even though we're trying to go into the pose with the instructions, the brain is fighting with, your subconscious brain is fighting with those instructions, and you try too hard, you put a lot of effort into it, and then you become quite tired. So we spend just a few minutes getting the energy back. You'll find that the breathing slows down. First, it feels as if you're gulping for air, and then very slowly, you hardly are aware of it, but slowly your breathing becomes more gentle, becomes more soft. And as your breathing quietens, your whole body starts to relax. The muscles soften. Internal organs quieten down, and the brain quietens down. You always do this pose at the end of the class. So that you do feel you're replenishing all your systems, getting more oxygen into your body, getting rid of the fatigue, the tiredness. But it is very difficult. So another minute. Just accept the way your body goes into a relaxed state, into a quiet state. All right, you can come to a seated position. So bend the knees, roll over to your side and sit up. Okay. I saw lots of people were leaving. I think it's time people want to go home, so we'll finish here. And to say thank you for letting me join you. And have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Monica.
It's
I'm sorry. Thank you again for nice start to the weekend.
Okay, not a problem. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. You too. That's the end of the meeting this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye. Mm-hmm.